Okay, so the first video was 1 through 10 of momentum conservation. Here is 11 through the end, which is 31? No, not 31. 19. What am I saying, 31? All right, let's go. Number 11. Okay, 11 is connecting quantities and units, and it says which two quantities can be expressed with the same units. Well, there's only two quantities I know that have two sets of units and can be expressed with the same units, and that is momentum and impulse. And oh look, that's choice 4. But let's actually walk through because units are not. Actually, I was gonna say units are not a small thing. Units are a small thing. They're not really a big deal, but they're not super hard to understand. But they are very important to remember because you have to remember them, one, but they also help you guide your problem solving. So let's actually walk through all the possible choices. Okay, well, the answer is not choice 1. And if it were choice 1, it wouldn't be fair anyway, because I didn't actually teach you yet what the units are for energy. You actually know them already from last year. The units for energy are joules. And then force, we know, of course, is newtons. Well, those are not the same units, so it is not choice 1. Then we have impulse and force. And impulse has two possible units, either newton seconds or kilogram meters per second, but force is in newtons. Those are not the same, so it's not choice 2. Now let's look at number 3. Momentum, like impulse, has two possible sets of units. Momentum is newton seconds or kilogram meters per second, but energy is in joules, so those are not the same units. So that leaves us with choice 4. Impulse and momentum both have the same units. They're newton seconds because J equals Ft, or kilogram meters per second because P equals mv. And they both have those same units, so 11 is choice 4. Okay, number 12, we read the problem through first, and we can see that this is a gun and a bullet. This is an explosion problem. We know before the bullet shoots that neither the bullet nor the gun is moving, and so neither has any momentum, and so the sum of their momentum before it fires is 0. And we know that the total momentum before equals the total momentum after. Total momentum before is total momentum after, and so if the total momentum before the gun shoots is 0, the total momentum after the gun shoots is 0. Prime, of course, meaning 0, and so if we subtract P2 to the right side, we get the momentum of one equals negative the momentum of the other. In other words, the momentum of the gun equals negative the momentum of the bullet, and vice versa. So I wrote down the stuff that we know. We know the mass of the bullet and the gun. We know the velocity of the bullet, which I'm calling V2 prime, prime meaning after, and 2 being the bullet. And then we want to know V1 prime, the recoil of the gun. Well, if P1 prime equals negative P2 prime, then M1 V1 prime equals negative M2 V2 prime, since P equals MV. All right, let's put the numbers in. So there you have it. The recoil of the gun is 2.42 meters per second, choice 2. So 13 and 14 are interesting. The problem's talking about cars colliding, and it says that the 1,200 kilogram car going 12 meters per second collides with a 2,300 kilogram car that's waiting at rest. Then it says the cars lock together and slide, and then it says friction stops them. So friction is in play, but number 13, calculate the speed immediately after the collision. That's relying on conservation of momentum. Now, momentum is conserved if there are no outside forces like friction, but then they talk about how there is friction. So you kind of have to break the problem down into two pieces. Before the collision and at the instant of the collision, there really kind of like is no friction in play. Then you could say, well, what about the friction of the car tires, the car that's at rest? That's static friction. Yeah, but as soon as that static friction is engaged, that's like after the collision. So like the actual momentum transfer has already occurred, and now we're in the second piece of it. And so in order to handle that collision, we're going to use the standard momentum collision, locked together formula without really thinking too much about it. So Let me write down the given information and go from there. So they're really kind of posing this question like two different ways. The first part, number 13, is about a collision situation, and then number 14 involves friction. So let's take a look at 13 first. 13 wants to know, what's the speed of the locked together cars immediately after the collision? Or in other words, what is V prime? Okay, so when you work that out, you get 4.11 meters per second for the speed right after the collision. But then it immediately begins to slow down because of friction. So that's number 14. So 14 wants to know, what's the friction force that brings the locked together cars to rest? So you should always try FF is mu Fn first. Alright, so the mu, we have rubber on dry asphalt, and it was sliding, so there would be kinetic friction. So our coefficient of kinetic friction from page 1 of the reference tables, we have rubber on dry asphalt kinetic, that is 0.67. We have that the friction force is 0.67 times the normal force. Now what's the normal force? They didn't tell us that explicitly. Well, we know that normal force equals weight cosine theta when you're on a ramp or not on a ramp. So when we're not on a ramp, normal force equals weight. And of course, weight we know is mg. Now we have to be careful, we have to use their combined mass, the 1200 kilograms plus the 2300 kilograms. Alright, so we have the normal force, which is equal to the weight. Again, don't forget it's the combined mass of the two cars together. 3,500 kilograms is 1,200 kilograms and 2,300 kilograms. So we bring that normal force that we just found to there, and there's our friction force, 23,000 newtons. Again, this is supposed to be a momentum worksheet, so that question might be a little unfair, but it would be a fantastic question for the Regents exam because it touches on separate topics. So we'll treat number 14 as a little bit of a review, but I wouldn't put something like that on a, say, circles and momentum test, because we already did friction. Okay, let's move on to 15. So 15 looks really complicated, with two masses colliding, and then they stick together, and then there's some really weird expression as the answer. 15 looks a lot harder than it actually is. Again, let's treat it as an inelastic collision. So here's our equation. And then they're talking about A and B instead of 1 and 2. So let's use the notation that they're using. What they want to know is, what is V prime? Well, we have to solve for V prime. So really what we need to do is just divide by mass of A plus mass of B. They didn't give us any numbers, but that's not really a big deal. So let's check it out. So then this cancels. And so what I'm left with is this. MAVA plus MBVB divided by the sum of MA plus MB. It sounds like a mouthful, but look, we really didn't have to do much to get there. And if we look at our answer choices, we see that that is not an answer choice. Okay, terrific. This is a fine example of not reading carefully. Notice that I did not read carefully, because I just noticed now that it says that mass B is at rest to start. So while what I boxed there is not wrong, actually we can use that. We don't even really need to rewrite the problem. We can just say that VB, the velocity of B before the collision, is 0. Another thing they said is that the velocity of A before the collision, they're just calling V. So let's write that down. So VA is what they're calling V, and VB is 0. So let's use the expression above and sub those things in and go from there. And so the second piece, the MBVB, goes away because the velocity of B is 0. So that leaves us with, there we go, and that is an answer. That is choice 4. 16, it also looks complicated, but if you look at it, it's the exact same thing as 15. You have an inelastic collision, and instead of using numbers, you're using letters like M and V. Incidentally, this is talking about shooting a bullet into a block. This is how they figure out things like muzzle velocity, how quickly the bullet leaves the gun, and the momentum of the bullet, and they can do all kinds of forensics by just taking a gun and shooting it into a block and seeing how the block responds. How the block responds post-collision, they can figure out stuff about the gun and the bullet before the collision. So one thing I didn't do in 15 was I didn't write down the given information right out of the gate. So let's do that. The mass of the bullet, we're going to call that M1. That is just M. They're calling the mass of the bullet lowercase m. M2 would be the mass of the block that it crashes into. It would be capital M. And then V1, that would be the velocity of the bullet before the collision. They're just calling that V. And the block is at rest, so V2 would be 0. And what they're looking for is V prime, the velocity of the bullet and the block together, as it says the bullet embeds itself into the block. In other words, it's an inelastic collision. All right, well, the M2V2 goes away because V2 is 0, because the block is at rest pre-collision, and I want to get V prime by itself, so I divide both sides by M plus M, the sum of the two masses. I'm not really sure why they wrote it that way for choice 4, but it would be M over M plus M, so it's kind of like the ratio of the masses maybe, times the velocity of the bullet pre-collision. And honestly, in the forensic analysis, what they'll do is usually they'll measure the velocity after the collision, and then that can give them, that's a lot easier to measure. Then they'll figure out the velocity pre-collision of the bullet. But anyway, 16 is 4, and 15 and 16 are pretty much the same problem. Speaking of pretty much the same problem, here's number 17. I would argue that 17 is easier than 15 and 16, because you guys are used to working with numbers, not by doing symbolic algebra. So that it's more familiar makes it easier. But there's nothing fancy about 17, it's just your standard inelastic collision problem. Let's take a look at 18, and 18 is not an inelastic collision, it's an elastic collision. They bounce off of each other, and they're moving in different directions, so one of those velocities has to be negative. Let's take a look. All right, here's our pre-collision numbers. We have the masses, and the first guy, the 8 kilogram car, is going 4 meters per second, and then the 4 kilogram car is going 6 meters per second to the left, so I made it negative. Then it gives us post-collision info. Let's see. Okay, we have to read carefully here. It says after the collision, the 4 kilogram car, that would be M2, moves to the right at 3 meters per second. So that would be V2 prime, prime meaning after. V2 prime is positive 3 meters per second because it's moving to the right. Now it wants to know what is V1 prime, the velocity of the first guy after the collision. Let's solve. M1v1 plus M2v2 equals M1v1 prime plus M2v2 prime. The momentum of one plus the momentum of the other before the collision equals the momentum of one plus the momentum of the other after the collision. Let's put the numbers in. Make sure you pay attention to the negatives. There's a lot going on here, so I'm just going to rewrite it without the units. Alright, collect your terms. 8 by 4 is 32. Negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. You have 8v prime plus 4 times 3 is 12. So 32 minus 24 is 8. Again, you have to be really careful with your arithmetic and tracking the negatives through. But in the end, you wind up that v1 prime is negative 0.5 meters per second, or 0.5 meters per second to the left. If we're calling positive to the right, then a negative answer would be to the left, and that's choice 1. Last question, 19. First, let's write down what we know. We have 2 bowling balls that are colliding. Okay, so we have the 2 different masses, 7.28 kilograms and 5.45 kilograms, and then we have the velocity of the first bowling ball, 8.5 meters per second squared, that's to the east, and then the velocity of the second bowling ball is 10 meters per second to the west. If I'm calling east positive, then I'm going to need to make that west number negative. Now, it wants to know the total momentum after the collision. And so we know that from conservation of momentum, that total P after the collision, which we don't know anything after the collision, but we know a bunch of things before the collision. Good thing, because momentum before is the total momentum before the collision is the total momentum after the collision. If there's little to no friction, we're talking rolling bowling balls, so there's very little friction there. So really what we can find is the total momentum before the collision. So the total momentum is P1 plus P2, and since P equals mv, we're really looking for m1v1 plus m2v2. So you're doing mv, but remember, one bowling ball is going to the west, so you're going to have to make that velocity negative. When you work the numbers out, you get 61.88 minus 54.5, which is 7.38 kilogram meters per second, because that's the unit for momentum. And since the answer came out as positive, and we're calling the eastward direction positive, then that would also be an eastward momentum. I'm not sure. It just says magnitude, so I don't actually even need the direction, but I would have 7.38 kilogram meters per second for my answer. That would be both before and after the collision, because total momentum is conserved. And they're saying in the answer key 7.4. I don't know why they're doing 2 sig figs. All of the numbers they gave initially are 3 sig figs. Whatever, close enough. That's it. That's number 19. It's the last problem. So that's it for this video, 2 of 2, of the conservation of momentum solutions. Thanks for listening. Hope that was helpful.